Yo, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another Monster Hunter World video. The TGS coverage continues, and in this video, as promised yesterday, I want to take the time to talk a little bit more about the story, the setting, and ultimately what led us to be in the continent that we're going to be exploring. Of course, today, there was also a much more in-depth stage presentation during the first public day of TGS, and I'll be sure to break that down and speak a bit more about some of the other news tomorrow, since I'm at EGX today, so for the time being, we're going to talk story. If you do enjoy this, you do find it helpful or interesting, then a like would be super appreciated, and be sure to comment down below and let me know if you guys have any questions. Now to begin with, the gameplay that you're seeing in the background is again the direct feed taken from the stage demonstration the other day. It shows the very beginning of the game, the events that led up to us making our own character, and the way in which the game introduces you to the controls and ultimately how we end up getting to the meat of the game. If you want to watch that video without me talking over the top, I've left a link to it in the description box down below, but thanks to some of the English commentary, we also have some interesting bits of information that help set the scene, so I'm just going to talk over it as it plays. To begin with, we are part of the 5th Fleet, a research division coming to this continent to investigate what's been going on. That huge Elder Dragon, Zora Magdaros, is moving or migrating, and the research team want to find out why. It's been quite a few years since the continent was first found, and gradually more fleets have made their way over. The commander that we saw in the trailer, he was the first commander of the 1st Fleet, and it's sort of like the village chief in that respect. He's kind of like the original pioneer, the one that spearheaded the operation. So Fleet 1 are your pioneers, and the subsequent fleets are your researchers. This guy, he is the grandson of the commander. He didn't actually come over on a fleet, he was actually born into this new continent and in the town that they're calling Astera. Now, each hunter has their own handler, so the handler that we speak to throughout the game, she is responsible for us, and she's our go-to for all information. She's going to be a much more prominent character than, say, the handlers or the guild moms of the past, so she'll be present throughout the story with us. As you can see from the cutscene, that big Elder Dragon, Zora Magdaros, rises out of the ocean, and the boat then gets stuck, and we're forced onto the back of the monster. And this marks the beginning of the game. This is the first time that you will ever take control of your characters. This is before you pick up your weapon, and this is just an introduction to movement, camera controls, and general climbing. They said that they've worked really hard to give players a better introduction to the game so that they understand the controls and really get a better feel for everything. Of course, for the veteran players, you'll know this already, but Monster Hunter games in the past have, more often than not, just dropped you in the village with, say, 14 weapons in your box, and you're sort of left to figure it out. Sure, you have the hunter notes and stuff like that, but it's not the most welcoming start, at least not if you're new. So this intro, paired with the weapon tutorials they have, means that people will generally have a better understanding when diving in for the first time. So for those of you guys watching this, and maybe Monster Hunter World is going to be your first Monster Hunter game, this is going to be a great way to learn the game. The first part of the campaign will follow the journey tracking this giant Elder Dragon. Quite what happens beyond that point, I don't know. This will likely be where Nergigante comes in, or something along those lines, but this will at least, to begin with, be our focus. Now shortly after that, we make our escape, fly off, and find ourselves crash landing in the ancient forest. This is where they cut the demo, but I imagine this is the point where you would then walk to the town. See, this isn't something they showed at TGS, but something I actually recorded at Gamescom. I am planning to do a full map tour at some point very soon, but you can actually walk from the base camp all the way over to the entrance of the town. You can't go in, or at least I couldn't at Gamescom, but the fact that everywhere is connected makes me think that that'll basically be how we start the game. We kind of crash land at the beginning, where that sort of base camp is, and then walk from the camp all the way to the front gate, and then maybe that's how we gain entrance to the town, and then the game begins. Now, whilst on the topic of roaming, they also spoke about this free hunt mode, or exploration mode. You're likely familiar with this already, but if you're new, typically quests in Monster Hunter have a time limit, and a number of times you can die before you fail. Usually 50 minutes and 3 deaths, but exploration mode is a mode where there are no time limits and no death limits, and you can just explore the map, fighting whatever is there, farming for materials, stuff like that. But since your handler is always present, if you then want to embark on a quest, you can do so without having to return to the town. Also, the first time you visit a new map, it won't all be uncovered, so as you explore, your map will start filling out and uncovering new areas. This is of course one of those things that once you have uncovered it, it will then be accessible to you, the next time you're there, but at least for the initial discovery process, there is incentive to go walking around the map. We also know from playing at Gamescom, you can discover different base camps that also aren't visible to begin with, so there's definitely reason, or definitely incentive to go and spend the time exploring, because it's going to make your life later on a hell of a lot easier. Something else they showed, which is actually super cool, is the way that you can also use the Murnos, those sort of flying pterodactyl looking creatures, to shortcut your way around the map. Now, we already know that fast travel is a thing. You can select a base camp and fly to it by hanging on this monster, but in combat, if you see them, you can also hit them or fire something at them with your slinger, and then when they get a little bit lower, you can grab onto them, and they will then take you to another part of the map on a predetermined route. So you're not in control, you're not actually flying this thing, but it's another way to get around without, say, fast traveling or walking, which is kind of cool because, you know, sometimes you might think, all right, I want to fast travel to base camp number 2, but then you've kind of got to still walk to where you want to go. But if you happen to know that this one, you know, in this case, it drops you in this lavender field in the Wildspire Waste, so if you know that, then you can just fly over there, and again, it's just a cool way to get around the map. So just another example of, like, ways you can interact with the environment around you. But for the time being, that's pretty much it. That was a look at how the game will begin, some nicer quality direct feed gameplay, and some story and map details on top. Again, make sure you keep it locked tomorrow, since I'll have another roundup for you guys with all the in-depth stuff from the stage show. But until then, thank you for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.